here in my garage. Just bought this new Lamborghini here.
My value add to the culture in the BWO. I'm an architect of mindset.
You got the homie trying to put you on, though? Yeah, everybody. Is it a trustworthy homie? Negative, dog.
I don't believe in a stimulus check, because if you get $600 or $1,400 and it changes your life, you didn't have a life.
We go approach the churches and say, yo, we gonna get this thing booked, but we get 50% of the revenue.
Other like black male friends in classes telling me about Forex, telling me how like they have to let me put they have to put me on because this is like a path to financial independence.
Nino was scamming people with get-rich-quick courses, and Ted soon figured this out. He started his own grift called the Forex Family Course.
As far as I knew, it was mostly black people. I did see some like people from other ethnicities and different backgrounds and stuff, but it was all types of black people for the most part.
Lil Yachty was paid $10,000 for this tweet. Neo was paid $12,000 for this tweet. Akon was paid $42,000 for this tweet.
What is it, man?
I keep telling you, it's a cryptocurrency you can trade for conventional money.
Oh, so it's a hustle.
Yeah, it's a hustle.
This is demonstrated in a variety of ways and methods and disciplines to show over time that these are not solutions to the problems that face Black communities.
No, you know who's a real name dropper? Kendrick Lamar. I was out to dinner with him. It's Chasey this, Snoop Dogg that. Oh, and we back. As we face yet another global recession around the globe, the price of everything is skyrocketing thanks to inflation. Groceries for luxuries such as feeding yourself, housing for luxuries such as not fighting off a raccoon for the last muffin bottom someone left in the back of a bakery, and gasoline so that you can afford to drive to the job with stagnant wages that pays you just enough not to live comfortably. Yet, when you look at guys like Dave Ramsey, it's been blamed on everything from Starbucks coffees and the occasional restaurant dinner to government inflation checks. People like Ty Lopez and Grant Cardone and the many clones offer answers that typically include buying some course, going to a motivational meeting that pitches you to buy some course, and like Venom splitting off and creating carnage, these people have created something arguably worse. Black people that specifically target the poor and financially illiterate. They've been called everything. Fake gurus, scammers, charlatans. Now, I would never call them that directly. If you decided to, that's fine. And if I did, I also like to remind everyone, this video was 1/3 parody, satire, and real news. Unlike those shows, I won't be having any of them on the show to perform this nonsense. We at Almost Live with John Lewis have standards and can't be bought off. Those videos get how many views? The Rock stating that he can't wait to start shooting the Smurfs live action reboot, and the state of the cinematic Smurf universe is about to change. And now for tonight's main topic. Or this morning, you might be coming off from a 3-day bender and watching this at 4 a.m. But we're talking about fake intellectuals, grifters, scammers. They come in all shapes, genders, and sizes. But a specific type that's especially bad, the ones that target their own. Yep, we're talking about black scammers that target black communities. Okay, so this is like the 4th draft of this video that's probably going to be an hour long, so it'll be a part 2. As I wrote it, more news kept breaking about scammers who exploit black people, so I'm sure some will ask, why am I doing this? Am I just a hater? Well, if this is your first time watching, welcome, but I have a slowly growing but loyal viewership of all backgrounds, but some of the most loyal viewers are what I call just simply the homies. They won't fall under the bourgeoisie class or literary scholars. They more likely to read a book like William Roden, $40 Million Slaves, about athletes than Francis Fanon, Wretched of the Earth. They want videos and interviews from people who didn't have a lot of encouragement to pursue whatever goals, but still made it. Some may even have a felony or two, but we all growing and learning together. You know what people like that hate more than almost anything? When someone's playing with their money. If you grew up a certain way, you can tell within one conversation if a guy really moving like he says he moves, if he really has knowledge. Don't matter, playing ball, hustling, working on cards, you good at spotting fakes. But what these guys rely on is knowing that financial literacy is a weak spot for a lot of black folks. and fancy sounding words can throw people off, so that's why I'm here. And if I go with the thumbnail, I'm thinking of this to be the first time a lot of you consume anything from this niche we call cornbread tube. What's cornbread tube, you ask? Long answer short, bunch of black creators who actually have the conversations white leftists was having without us for years. So as a brother who admittedly didn't go to college, but really enjoys learning and fact checking info, let's talk about some things these gurus and thought leaders may not talk about. And white viewers, thanks for the support. Just take a second and really consider what comment before you leave it, as this is a mostly black people you never heard of and black culture we're going to be talking about. By the way, what the hell is a thought leader? Y'all really just letting folks make up titles and shit, then get mad when people call them out, but okay. So one of the terms you'll hear often is wealth building from these fake gurus, in the belief that we need to emulate other communities, mainly white, who hold the most wealth in America, which is a statistical fact. In 2019, the median of black household in America was 24,000, while it was 189,000 for white households, meaning black households hold 12.7% of the wealth white households have, meaning all those people online you jealous of with nice cars, clothes, going on vacations are usually in debt or pump faking somehow. So how did they come up with these numbers? The too long didn't read version is everything you own minus what you owe, meaning a $200,000 house you still owe $180K on, an $80,000 Benz you owe $70,000 on, that'll be worth like $40,000 by the time it's paid off, plus the credit card debt and other loans minus whatever you have in savings and 401k is the net worth. And the median household value is counted in a similar way. Now you might be saying, John, I don't need a G-Wagon, a penthouse in Miami. I just want to live comfortably. And that's honestly how most black people actually feel. We just want to live without fear of eviction and a $1,000 expense ruining your year, and maybe afford a couple vacations to the Smoky Mountains in Houston once a year or twice a year. But LLCs, house flipping, and crypto shitcoins won't fix that. You see, it's this thing called white supremacy that's been on the necks of black people since chattel slavery. But for a more defined example, we'll call it the jockey syndrome. Now, I'm not sure who came up with the term originally, but William Roden, legendary black sports writer, talks about it in his book, $40 Million Slaves, which I highly recommend. In it, he speaks of the history of black athletes. The term comes from the little known history of black horse jockeys. You see, over 100 years ago, baseball, cycling, and horse racing were the biggest sports in America. And for y'all, I'm leaving this in that thinks this is just a prop. This is actually ice water, so I don't throw my throat out. And because of slavery and handling horses, black men from the South naturally were able to adapt, so they became the jockeys. At first, it was believed that the best horse would always win, but it didn't take long for people to realize that much like the kid in the expensive Jordans on a basketball court who can't make a layup, the rider is a lot more important than the beast. So black jockeys, they began to dominate the sports, even winning some of the biggest races, prize money, and earliest Kentucky Derby. Most famous, Isaac Burns Murphy won the Kentucky Derby 3 times in a 7-year period. He actually won the first Kentucky Derby. Well, white folks wasn't having this. They eventually started a union for jockeys. They refused to renew black riders' contracts, and on the field basically beat the shit out of them, sometimes even tripping the horses. Eventually, that was the end of black jockeys. The rules had been changed overnight, which is how we get the jockey syndrome. Jump forward to the 1950s and 1960s. Banks finally agreed to let people get loans for houses, but they created a thing called redlining, meaning blacks could only buy houses in specific areas and thus controlling the value of those homes because of, you guessed it, good old racism. I don't have time to get all the way into it, so check out the book White Flight. And not to mention black veterans being excluded from the GI Bill, unfair lending practices, undervalued home evaluations, a lot of which we still see to this day. In this second video on black conservatives, YouTuber FD Signifier talks about an upscale all-black neighborhood somewhere in modern Atlanta. Even then, with an extremely low crime rate, black millionaires and professionals, that entire neighborhood is undervalued based off what the real value should be because of the simple fact black people own the homes. It's not just jokes writers put in the shows, it is a fact. A gay white couple moving into a neighborhood raises the value, and a black couple lowers it. All things being equal, education and income, because white supremacy and capitalism dictates it. Now, an actual educated person that knows two things about wealth will tell you ownership in a home is the biggest and best investment you can possibly make. Most people spend most money a month on housing, and when you die, you can pass it down to kids who can then move in or sell it for more than what you paid, hopefully. Boom. Generational wealth. But you see where I'm getting at? When banks can lower the value of your home simply because you're black, that's going to affect what you can pass down to your kids. Like how Uber drivers eat some of the fries before dropping your food off before passing the bag on to you. But it gets deeper. Then that not only is capitalism and adjusting the market so your black dollars are never equal to white dollars or the other minorities who have been allowed to assimilate as white adjacent, which is why I hate the term people of color, but that's for another video. Destroying the value of black neighborhoods has a trickle-down effect because that then affects the property value and the taxes which feed public school system. It's not a coincidence that black schools have underfunded budgets and resources, unless you're one of those morons that just thinks that black schools are like that because teachers and communities don't care. You know what happens when schools are underfunded? The kids who need a little more help but can't get it because the classes are overcrowded, they find other things to do and drop out. You know what's a really good way to increase the odds of going to prison and or living in poverty? Dropping out of high school. It's almost like the systems have been set up in a way to ensure black bodies constantly feed the prison system and fill jobs with low pay and rare upward mobility. And saying things like that is why my personal FBI agent assigned to watching me keeps getting 90-day extensions approved. Well, that and a half dozen videos about the FBI files that I made admitting that they spy on black people, I had to delete those. After you're done complaining about me calling out your favorite black grifter at some point in this video, I have a whole ass video on how the prison system robs black families and communities of billions of dollars a year. And also, check out the book Dying of Whiteness. In my video that says fear of being replaced on the thumbnail, talk about that book. What, that's like 3 books I recommended. See, unlike grifters, I'll point towards books and sources that show actual facts. Now, even if we were to ignore the median wealth gap, what these people selling courses fail to mention is black people aren't poor because of buying Jordans and PlayStations. Even though, yes, I do have a homie named Charles who went to rehab for a sneaker addiction. Something about that new shoe smell just kind of drove him crazy. 9 times out of 10, those purchases are a treat. But when 60% of your take-home pay goes to housing, another 30% goes to food, utilities, and car note, etc., it's hard to stack money up. Then we get the actual systemic oppression in hiring. Be it weeding out resumes with black sounding names, which has been proven, being passed over for promotions, or being mostly excluded from industries that make good money. Let's look at some raw numbers. But before that, some of the books I mentioned are free to rent on the app Hoopla or Libby, depending on the state you live in. And no, this isn't a sponsored post. Unlike the grifters who pay to appear on various urban podcasts, I'll mention if I receive a check. See, when we upload videos, the FTC actually requires we click a box to say if we got paid. So, you know, if we're being influenced. As writing this, Kim Kardashian and a ton of celebrities are in the middle of a lawsuit for promoting NFTs and cryptos a couple years ago without the closing they were paid at. So just know I called it first when the FTC and or SEC charges these podcast hosts and grifters in a year or so with fraud and misleading viewers. But let's look at some real raw numbers at black earning power versus white to see how much advice these people give will work. Now, These numbers are from the Center for American Progress. Average household with no high school diploma or GED, black 35,000, white 230,000. High school diploma, black 91,000, white 421,000. Some college education, black 125,000, white 472,000. Now keep in mind, these are all averages. A college degree, black 270,000, white 1.79 million. Now these are all averages, meaning if they gave us a median number, they would be even lower and a much bigger gap between race. So what actually would help black and create real wealth or bare minimum allow us to own homes and businesses in our own communities? Well, short answer, reparations. It's that simple. America's wealth is built off of 400 years of slavery, from chains to sharecropping, Jim Crow era to modern prison industrial complex. Some estimates I found is America owns African descendants of slaves between 10 to 12 trillion dollars with the T. Now we seen how this country reacted January 6th when an election was lost by the guy they wanted, so reparations won't happen. So what's a more realistic answer? Well, before boycotts were popularized in the 1960s, and I must admit, they made some success. Most famously, the Montgomery, Alabama boycotts of the bus. Even more effective form of non-protest exists: labor strikes. As I write this, SAG, or Screenwriters Guild, are on strike, and the Actors Union, along with Teamsters and Directors Unions, may be joining soon because of unfair revenue sharing. Now, I was one of the foolish people who boycotted the NFL because of Colin Kaepernick treatment. 2 years later, I seen it didn't affect anything, so I'm watching again. But you know what makes owners afraid? Players striking. Is why players unions are so powerful and some of the strongest unions in America. I know a lot of viewers who claim to be leftists or whatever somehow have an issue with athletes who work for billionaires who demand more of the value they create. Your anti-blackness is showing. Being from Detroit, one of the few cities with a strong union presence and home to the most UAW unions in America, I can tell you, strikes work. Unions not only increase wages for workers in them, but also for those in the surrounding area because they have to compete. For a deeper dive, see YouTubers Lil Bill's video, "This is how we save Black America." But also support creators as much as you can. Now to debunking grifters. Chapter 1, the grift. Not that I'm endorsing it, but from a strictly scammer's mindset, combine this generation's YOLO attitude with the ever-rising cost of college tuition in America, someone who's offering to turn $500 into $5,000 overnight or teach you how to become a master day trader in a matter of weeks instead of attending college for 4 to 8 years for a degree, that can be tempting to the naive and inexperienced. What they don't mention in these jet-setting posts about eating expensive steak and lobster dinners, why you earn passive income hour on the hour just from running some trading bot they created, artifacts. So let's look at the numbers. First off, these guys promote these bot day trading scams you have to pay for are less reliable than the Detroit Pistons in a playoff game. Wait, you all don't watch sports. Those day trading bots they promote are less reliable than Lauryn Hill at an 8 p.m. call time for a concert. And if you don't get that reference, ask your auntie or mother. Oh, and I guess thanks non-black viewers also support my Patreon. I seen the racial wealth gap in America. You can afford it. So a logical thinking person, and especially someone who has professional training, will ask, if you all can guarantee daily returns of 5, 10, 20%, why would you even sell this technology for a couple $1,000s? You would either keep it top secret like the Coke formula, the KFC recipe, or whatever created the Powerpuff Girls, and exploit this information basically like what happened in that movie Limitless. Either that or sell it to some multi-billion-dollar hedge fund and retire on a private island. But let's say we took these guys at face value, and for this part I used some research done by CoffeeZilla, Spencer Cornelia. Also reached out to Pocket Watching with JT. I never heard back, but it's pretty much understood in the YouTube community. Sharing info that will help people not get scammed is fine. Just give credit for the research. What am I, Blair from Never mind. So as far as day traders, because these scams come in waves and different costumes, a few years ago it was Forex and various clicks, but we'll get to that later. Now the big grift seems to be selling courses to teach you to day trade, and maybe some trading bot or an app you have to sign up for to trade. According to the nerds who actually research these things, only 3% of day traders are profitable after 1 year, and that's profitable with a big asterisk, because technically after a year, if you made $1 more than you spent, you're profitable. And these apps charge a fee per trade. The estimate doesn't include however much the scammers charge a year for memberships to the clubhouses and courses. Just to make a minimum wage, you have to be in the top 2.7% of all day traders. Index funds ran by, I don't know, people who went to some of the most expensive schools on the planet to study finance. But what about the Forex folks? Well, it seems like we haven't heard from them in a while. I feel like that's a sleeping giant. What is Forex, you ask? It stands for foreign exchange market. Instead of trading stocks, regular people claim they can bounce between different currencies and make a profit. Much like Kleenex, Forex has become such a generic term, it now has a stink to it. The last big wave was roughly about 2020. Imagine if you combine grind this life bros with crypto bros. Now, I'm not sure if this scam was big outside of the black community, so any non-black viewers, let me know if your social media was flooded with Forex folks a couple years ago. Also, drop a super chat or something. I've seen the racial wealth gap in America. You can afford it. Now, the biggest one was IML or iMarkets Live. They must have made a new LLC or went out of business or something. All the top YouTube videos about them, as I was researching, are from at least 2 years ago. Okay, so long story short, imagine if Jehovah's Witnesses tried to get you to join a pyramid scheme instead of change your religion and stop celebrating holidays. Like, for a while, it was an ongoing joke that Forex shysters were the Jehovah's Witnesses of pyramid schemes. Now, if you know anything about a good pyramid scheme, they target niche communities. You'll see it with essential oils being pushed in mom Facebook groups, house flipping in slightly older groups with more money. So it makes sense that IML mostly marketed to young black people, and by young, I mean the under 25 crowd who doesn't have much life experience. I've heard testimonies that they targeted HBCUs, PWIs, and community colleges with large black student counts and promoted the schemes. Knowing that like all young people, that fast money and promise of a flashy lifestyle would be enticing. Now, this isn't something actually new, but the last time it was like turbocharged. I even seen a few Instagram mutuals of mine in their 30s get roped in, but how did the scam work, you ask? Well, like all pyramid scheme, it wasn't about the products. It doesn't matter if you're selling refurbished Rose Pleasure toys or avocado peels to make your dog smarter. In the case of IML, the grifter was claiming you pay monthly for access to a Discord group, daily meetings and training videos that would teach you to trade foreign currencies and beat the Wall Street billionaires and other corporations that spend more on their office furniture than you make in a lifetime. But if you want to earn extra money, just recruit a few people. 3 people under you, you are now a purple level recruit. 6, and you are a purple diamond level recruit. And each month they pay for a membership. You get a kickback. And if they hire their downlines, you get a kickback from that. So does the person who signed you up? See how that starts to sound like a pyramid? Insert clip from The Office. You aren't supposed to actually say insert clip from The Office out loud. God damn it. You've seen Anchorman. It's a rare medical condition that I also have where you repeat everything that's on a teleprompter.
It's not a pyramid scheme. It's not even a scheme per se.
I have to go make a call.
Out of fear of sounding like some out-of-touch boomer, I only spent a couple minutes on it, but most of these gurus were promoting shitcoins and NFTs before the bubble burst about a year and a half ago. Here's the thing, guys. When it comes to some get-rich-quick scheme or some fast rising stock like the whole GameStop fiasco, by the time you, the average Joe, hears about it, it's too late. Notice all those athletes, influencers getting sued for promoting funny money, aka cryptocurrencies. They all got paid in green American bucks while telling you to buy bitcoins because they can get you a metaverse house or some shit. I don't know. Next scam I've seen on the rise, and I want to expose because I see it getting worse the next couple of years: sports betting. More specifically, sports betting discords. As a person who enjoys sports betting, it does make a regular season game more exciting. I can tell you these guys are scammers and grifters. Here's the play. They'll advertise the lifestyle, nice jewelry, cars, yada yada on Instagram or Facebook. Then post some wild long shot parlay. They hit, then a few others. But most of those are all fake or stolen from sports betting Reddit. Here's a tip from someone who hit a few long shot parlays. Parlays are a sucker's game. You'll lose more than you win. What's a parlay, you ask? John, I don't know anything about sports betting. All right, so basically you have two types of bets. Straight bet, meaning I bet the Cowboys to win by 4 points or more. I bet $110. If they win, I get my $110 back plus another 100. So I won $210. But you may not want to bet $110 just for a chance of an extra 100. In which case, you can bet a parlay. Let's just say you stack 4 bets. In one, the Cowboys win by 4 points. Quarterback passes for 290 yards. He throws 2 passing touchdowns, and the score is under 55 points. Now, instead of betting $110, you can bet $10 if all of those things happen. And now you just won $120 off of $10. Less money risk, same money made. But the thing is, if one loses, you lose the whole bet. Assuming all the legs are minus 110, you only have a 12% chance of hitting a 3-leg parlay, and the odds just get worse and worse from there. But let these guys who sell memberships to the Discord talk like they talk like they win like 90% of the time. Listen, the guys who have actual systems and networks, they don't hit that rate. It's just slightly over the average. And guess what? When they start winning too much, they get banned. Another YouTuber, Spencer Cornelia, interviewed some guys and showed how often their accounts get restricted. They have to use multiple burner phones. They have a whole system. Now remember, the house or Vegas, as we call it, was built by mob money, and they don't like to lose, even if you're doing it legally. So just like the financial guru courses, if these guys had a way to hit 10-leg parlays regularly, they would not be giving you that info for a $20 a month membership. They make money from the memberships, not the picks. And now for every grifters and comments favorite phrase: passive income. It's become one of those phrases that you hear so much it loses all meaning, like police reform, mental health, or inflation. Like, you hear all these terms so much, your mind just kind of blank out. Like, some of y'all watching this heard me say passive income, and your mind start wondering if those jeans you bought before the pandemic got shrunk in a wash, or your waist got a little bigger. And now, Thomas, you know damn well you haven't rode that Peloton bike in 2 years. Yes, it's your waist. Now pay attention again. So scammers just love to sprinkle the word passive income around like it's your cousin Reggie sprinkling parsley all over the box lunches he sells out of his grandma's house. But what is passive income? In simplest terms, it's a service or product you created that you can then walk away from and it makes money. So in a way, a YouTube channel is actually passive income. It's not uncommon for a random video, maybe a year or more old, to get 100,000 views, and the creator gets paid from that. They get the ad revenue. But see, building a loyal audience, learning how to edit videos, get comfortable on camera, make thumbnails, get people to watch for a long enough time to come back, all of that takes time. What the grifters that target black folks do is some combine a combination of a pyramid scheme, direct selling, and I don't know, whatever the wave is that month. A few years ago, it was drop shipping, which actually was profitable if you did it right. But grifters and their courses selling on how to make $100,000 a year drop shipping, they muddied the water. And overnight, Amazon changed the rules of service and they got rid of the drop shipping options through them. Detox Tea is one that seems to target women preying on the insecurity and beauty standards. It doesn't work, but a few Photoshop pics and some fake testimonials help sell the dream. The dream is not only a BBL-shaped body, but also you get to be a downline selling overpriced green tea to the next rude. Then credit repair, which also leans less pyramid scheme to outright bank fraud, which we'll be talking about more in part 2 of this series. Oh shit, nigga, outfit change. I'm like the Shannon Spear or something like that. No, I messed up recording and I had to finish recording this. Anyway, if y'all made it this far, go ahead and check out my Patreon. Sign up at the $5 or $10 level. It'll really support me. I'm not putting the full ad in here. And we jumping back into the video. So, part 3, spirituality and exploiting black trauma. All right, so you know how them smarty art folks like FD Signifier, Lil Bill, and Khadijah, you know the whole group always talking about W.E.B. Du Bois, disproving theory about the talented tip and how it doesn't work, which I agree. Something about how the top 10% of black folks can pull up the rest of us, like Reaganomics, trickle down economics or something. I'm not sure. I usually start reading some of those books, get bored, then I always end up breaking down the metaphors in a Kendrick Lamar record or something like that. If black folks like Robert Johnson, who created BET, and the guy who has the do-rag patent are the talented 10, these scamming ass dudes are like the hateful 8. Now in the before times, before Instagram, crypto courses, before Don King swindled Mike Tyson out of millions, before Pastor Jones down at your local church convinced Big Mama she could buy her way into heaven with a weekly donation, learning from Clark Stanley, the original snake oil salesman, one of the earliest known black charlatans, Jebediah Brown went from sharecropper field to field selling his version of snake oil, a cream-based concoction he claimed would straighten your hair for up to a week. Turns out it was nothing more than pork fat and grape jelly. By the time his marks found out, he was already on to the next town. He was able to keep this up until his luck ran out and someone he swindled spotted him at a bar a few times over. Then you can take a guess at what happened. So, post-Reconstruction, a few shiesty individuals realized you can get some black folks to do just about anything if you sprinkle Jesus' name across it. If it worked during slavery to temper the spirits of some would-be runaways, instead of rebellion, sitting by and waiting for a superhero to come from the sky and deliver freedom, it could be used to hustle dollars from the religious. Now, there's a lot of faults with the black church, enforcing anti-black Euro standards of beauty, misogyny, homophobia, classism. I could go on, but I must mention it did play a big part in organizing civil rights movements even before the Black History All-Stars you've heard of started shaking things up in the 1960s. But for the last, I don't know, every day since our mother tongues and various religions were stripped of us after being brought to the New World by colonizers, Black Americans have had a toxic relationship with religion. And these charlatans know that. They know that Big Mama, who's been donating to the building fund since before you could crawl, drills in your head as a child. You do not question the word of God. Pretty much all religious families seem to have this to some level. But you know the whole white savior trope, it didn't come out of thin air. It traces back to slavery and the Bible. So it's especially ingrained in black folks, which might as well be America's slogan. Poor healthcare system is even worse for black folk. Unfair criminal justice and prison system is even worse for black folks. Food deserts and poor communities and high blood pressure, well, you get it. So from a villain standpoint, it makes sense that if you want to grift black folks who don't really have the means to get higher education and will believe anything you say, as long as you sprinkle in Abrahamic teachings, it's an easy grift. During election season, you can even make deals with shady politicians or exploit the death of black people at the hands of police. But only one problem. You still needed a physical location for the place to worship. That means paying rent or a mortgage, utilities, but not taxes because of lobbyists. That was up until recently. Then social media evolved to a point that anyone who was entertaining enough and maybe charismatic can develop a following and sell almost anything. But now it's 2020, whatever year you're watching this video. And as we see from places like Pew Research and other sources, regular attendance of church and other places of worship in America has been sharply declining since the peak of the 1960s and the We Shall Overcome era with church hymns, or the appropriated hippie movement. But people still have a draw into spirituality, so soon charlatans found a way to exploit that. But subtle religious doctrine wouldn't be enough. We just started to recover from the 2008 financial crisis, and the rise of the fake gurus was upon us. From dorks in car garages running countless ads on YouTube in front of exotic cars and bookshelves looking to sell you an online course.
Just bought this new Lamborghini here.
Guys in the parking garage in front of exotic cars looking to sell you a course on day trading. To guys in luxury clothing promising secrets to perfect credit and limitless money, and you guessed it, in front of exotic cars if you sign up for a course and also attend an expensive 1 to 3 day convention. Something new had been introduced. The idea that knowledge is being gatekept. And if some knowledge that only a specific small group of people have sounds an awful lot like traditional religion, well, that's because a lot of these groups move like what I call high control groups. Some of you may have discovered my channel from my video about traditional religion versus cults and high control groups. For those who haven't, Dr. Stephen Hassan, who dedicated a large portion of his life to studying high control groups, after exiting one, he came up with the BITE model. It has different spectrums of what qualifies something as a cult, each letter being a different way these groups seek to subtly control members, that being behavior, information, thought, and emotional control. So I thought it'd be interesting if we look at these various groups and grifters. Now, because each group functions so differently, it's typically best to look at a special group or denomination, but we'll just be looking at these groups in a more generic sense from what I found in research. I highly recommend watching my video I made on cults versus religions for a more detailed look at all of this. But let's get started. So the first one is behavior control. So I honestly haven't noticed anything too extreme. It more leans on the peer pressure side and humans' desire to be a part of a community. Like that time you got really into yo-yo in elementary because everyone was doing it, and then you did Around the World and Shattered the Fish Tank. That desire is why the guy in high school who couldn't make the basketball or football team would volunteer to keep stats and maybe edit game film just to be able to travel with the guys, because they're a part of a group, and we as humans all bond over things, community and groups. So at the height of the 4X, I've learned it was common for the groups. You pay a monthly fee to have a private Discord and group chats. Now, in a normal situation, that's no issue. I'm in the Simpsons Discord. We talk about episodes, memes, etc. But with the 4X Discords, because no one actually knows tips on making money, day trading, foreign currency, the real money would be in recruiting. So 90% will be tips on how to recruit more daily, sometimes multiple times a day calls that were required, and also required to post on social media every day on how much money you were making, whether you were or not, and also that you were looking to recruit someone, anyone. See, the perception of success was more important than actual knowledge. And if that wasn't done, you would be kicked out of the group or called out in front of everyone during the next call. Now we have to remember, for 4X, they specifically targeted college-age young black kids. So some older ones like me, they might say, kiss my ass, kick me out. But a kid in college may be pressured to stay in the group, keep paying monthly fees out of the fear of losing friends and association. But as you get into more expensive grifts like crypto and house flipping, the behavior control goes a little further. Online courses aren't enough. Now the pressure comes in the form of expensive conventions in which you have to fly to a city, or in some cases a different country, get a car, rent a hotel room, all to learn how to buy and sell crypto, I guess. I've yet to find any info on why these conventions exist for the attendees. I mean, yeah, the grifters, they get a cut of each ticket, so. But All of this information could be told in a YouTube video. But now everyone in Discord is saying they traveling to Miami for the conference where the new Purple Monkey dishwasher coin will be revealed, and keep asking if you will go and if you're serious about making money like they are. Now, I'm not against the convention. In May of 2023, a bunch of creators went to MomoCon, some anime convention. I might attend one year, but the goal isn't to create some overnight wealth. It's to meet online friends in person, maybe cosplay. It's no pressure to go. But all in all, looking at more extreme cults and high control groups I studied over the years, these get rich quick scams, they don't score very high on a 1 to 5 scale, 5 being most extreme. I would score them a low too, honestly, because it's really easy to manipulate young teens and adults, which is the only reason I didn't give them a 1. Information control. So opposed to traditional cults and high control groups, again, information control is different with get rich quick schemes. They use a tactic where they actually do convince recruits they have information others don't. Like that lying son of a bitch in middle school who claimed he could unlock Goku on Super Smash Bros. This comes in multiple ways. When we looked at day traders or crypto, they make it seem like it's some secret white America is keeping from black people. You just have to buy a course or monthly membership to get it. And what is normally is some trading bot showing weekly profits, but it's always on demo mode if you look at those videos. When it comes to house flipping and the LLC gang, they disguise it as some secret tax hacks that can get you a free Range Rover with tax write-offs, or buy a house in Baltimore for $2,000 and sell it for $100,000 in 30 days. But again, you have to ask yourself, why would these guys be selling this info to regular people or anyone at all? Well, the answer they say is, well, because we trying to do it for the culture. Here's the thing. If you actually want to do it for the culture, that's why charities exist. In America, it's called a 501c, and donations to the nonprofit can be tracked. But if these guys ever opened up their books and showed tax returns, they make a majority of the money from selling courses and conventions, not from day trading or flipping crypto. And the ones who are in commercial and residential real estate, they don't have any special tricks. They do what everyone else in the field does. Drop 6 figures on a property, pay thousands of dollars to do a bunch of boring, unsexy paperwork, and hope to make a profit. And that's if they have years of experience knowing how to budget things and what to look for. From my research, none of these flash get-rich-quick conventions teach people how to budget for a plumber, get an electrician to rewire an entire 50-year-old house, all the bureaucratic red tape of reselling. Nope, it's buy a course plus (equals big sack of money with a $sign. While it was very scummy, I can't say that it's necessarily dangerous. Okay, well, your wife, she might smack you up once she finds out you spent $10,000 on a course from someone selling it that cost himself day $5,000. So I'll rate the scammers a 1 out of 10. Thought control. Now, honestly, I haven't seen much evidence of this one with grifters because what you'll find in cults and religious groups is actual instruction to change your thinking. Again, I recommend watching my video on cults, but one example is you'll hear or read something that contradicts exact thing you just been taught from the podium, but the group then just told, don't think about it, gotta work it out. So I'll give the grifters a 0 out of 5. I really couldn't find too much information, and there's no point in drawing this one out. But the big one, emotional control. So this is the big one that made me write this entire section on the bite model. So it's very strange, but also interesting what I've noticed. Like I mentioned earlier, younger people who may still consider themselves religious or spiritual, however you want to split hairs. But compared to 50 years ago in the 1970s, church and other places of worship, weekly attendance is down. Not sure, it could have something to do with adults not needing to sit in a building for hours every few weeks, so how to be decent people. But black folks still have that trigger in them. So when a charismatic charlatan comes and speaks about leveling up your chakra and your shadow self, it apparently speaks to a specific type of people. I don't get it, but here's the thing. Pretty much every actual cult you research, you'll find the longtime members aren't the ones who say, something's fishy. I know these words, but that sentence he said makes no sense. I'm going to ask more questions. No, those people are excommunicated or they just leave. Another thing you'll find is people that get involved in everything from high control financial groups to religious cults aren't actually looking for truth. They may say that they may even call it the truth. But when exposed to unbiased facts like, I don't know, historical evidence or the leader's shady past and business dealings, they're going to ignore it, which is why emotional control is, in my opinion, the most powerful tool in keeping people in these groups. So when a leader starts selling a course and for some reason supplement pills that will help you level up to a higher plane of consciousness, it may seem weird, but to those that are primed, it's exactly what they didn't know they needed. People are no longer a part of the group for knowledge or truth. They're now a part because it makes them feel good. You see, facts can be proven. If I'm teaching a course on economics and half of what I'm saying can be proven to be false with data and research, eventually I'll be exposed. But if I'm teaching a group about building wealth and I hint at other groups' success in America is based on their race or racist, anti-Semitic stereotypes and tropes or their spending habits, then you might agree with me on an emotional level. I've yet to see any of these gurus and grifters speaking on things like America's history of redlining, which hurt black families' ability to build wealth through owning homes. They don't speak about how black women and men with the same education and even higher historically earn less money than white people in the same exact field in lower education. They fail to address systemic racism like higher arrest rate, longer jail sentences for black people for the same crime than any other groups. Then let's say you can get the bag. Even wealthy black homes are underappraised, thus lowering the net worth. But hey, financial freedom. And if you made it this far, I can reveal in part 2, I'll be going undercover as a scammer to see what tips I can learn about how they do it. Here's a little preview.
Easier for me to sell you on something if I look like my mother used to say, you know, fake it till you make it until you figure it out. You know what I mean? And that seems to work for whatever reason.
Right. And like I said, I can't really speculate it. In my head, just hearing what you said earlier about the patriarchy thing, I feel like the reason that a lot of the women get into the credit repair scam stuff, which doesn't work, is from the other hustle standpoint, that one seems the more feminine. Like telling the dude, like when you even listen to the language that these guys talk about with crypto and stuff, they use the language that we use in hip hop. I'm gonna teach you how to take 500 and flip it into 5,000, and we're gonna flip these houses, and we're gonna get this or that. Then we go invest in this. But then when you look at something like credit, that's just numbers on the sheet. That's just a card. So to me, I can't. Like I said, this is all anecdotal. It's just weird that when we start looking at things from a different way, you start to notice all of these parallels and how you said misogyny and patriarchy, all of that. It's similar to racism. All of that affects literally every aspect of life in America.
To shaping the public opinion and consciousness, in this case, for Black people around this misunderstanding of what buying power is and is not. And that's why it is intergenerational. It crosses political lines. As I point out in my book, everybody from Malcolm X to Dr. King to Booker T. Washington to Marcus Garvey, and many people through to today have at one point or another misunderstood what buying power is and is not. So so even the most radical, politically astute adults are often misunderstand what this is and is not. And that's why I've been trying to work on this project for so long. And I'm always, happy to get a chance to talk about it.
Okay, thank you. But yeah, thank you, Dr. Ball. And you doing your part. I don't know if you want to say your age, but I'm assuming you like probably either
51,
late millennial.
51,
You were
51,
Gen X,
yeah.
Gen Xers. So as we close out, you pretty much a part of the last generation that seen actual unions like that played a full part in America. Would you say that at least if we were able to go back to when a majority of Americans worked union jobs, would you say that's at least improvement or not really too much?
Well, unions would be a big help.
Pyramid schemes like really play with the line of legality, and some are like notoriously bad. Like one that like really plays with the line of legality, in my opinion, is Avon. Like Avon, they have a product that they sell, Avon products, but candidly, a lot of like the actual distribution methods function very much like a pyramid scheme. Whereas if you were like to go like Vector Knives or some of those like kind of travel groups or like timeshare groups, those are effectively just straight up pyramid schemes.
When you think about the way the recruitment strategy is formed, it's like based on who do you know, and a lot. So like all the people that I knew that were into Forex for the most part were people in my neighborhood, which was a lower middle class inner city neighborhood where there was mostly black people. So if somebody was in Forex and they were recruiting other people, they probably were recruiting other niggas.
Right.